Thank you, everybody, and welcome everybody to Digital Overdose. Thank you to the organizers for having us today. I feel humble and excited for this opportunity. Today, I wanted to talk to you about a rookie journey into OSINT and how to get started on a budget. It's a personal experience, but also I wanted to share some lessons learned and how to get started in this amazing world that is OSINT. So I wanted to talk a little bit about me beforehand. I had a background in bioinformatics. I spent a lot of time doing consulting for life sciences and pharma. And currently I'm an informatics program manager at a children's hospital. This is my Twitter handle if you want to look me up. And I started OSINT a little bit over a year ago. And for many, many reasons, my path has changed. So I started trying to find missing people. And now I find myself supporting criminal investigations and prosecution of high-level crimes internationally. So for today, I wanted to think how to summarize what we're going to do together. And I put it in the structure of the findings on the OSINT report. So findings is part of the OSINT report that you probably will end up building at some point in your career. And these are the three findings that I want to share with you today. So the first one is you can get great OSINT education from open sources, either cheap or free. The second one is that there are building blocks for an investigation that are very important, such as the objective, the methodology, and the tools. And the third one is that there's a basic setup that you need to understand and build before you start an investigation, right? So your Puppet accounts, your machine, and also the objectives of the methodology of the investigation. So let's start step by step building this story. So when we talk about open source intelligence, we all kind of know that this is the finding of information on Intel in sources that are available on the web. We don't do any active hacking, or we don't penetrate any systems to get this intelligence. So we're trying to grab the crumbs that our target has left in the web. But when we talk about OSINT, we definitely have a lot of things to think about it. So we can be speaking about people OSINT, we can talk about corporate OSINT, websites, defensive OSINT, and offensive OSINT. So there's a few of the angles of the investigation and the framework that you can take, but you also can change your angle based on what you're trying to do. So are we trying to find missing people? Are we trying to do some fact checking? Are we trying to define any threats against our organization or systems? Are we supporting criminal investigations and so forth? So the idea of this slide, and I know I'm missing some points, is that you, when you start your journey, may think that you want to do OSINT for a reason, but that probably will change as long as you learn more about the framework and techniques. So I, for example, started trying to find missing people, and then I end up supporting some criminal investigations. And the more you learn about yourself, and then you will land in a place that you enjoy and you feel that you're making a difference to the world. So today we're gonna do two labels. We're going to use two labels in our presentation. We're going to talk about the steps to take to find the content and set up yourself to become a junior OSINT investigator, and some advice. But I am not a cocky person, so I don't want to say that I'm giving you advice. I give advice from me, present me, to newbie me. So if I were to talk to myself some time ago, I will tell this advice. All right, so the first step, follow the OSINT crowd in Twitter. This is something that has helped me a lot. There's nothing as easy to go to the advanced search, the Twitter search, and look for keywords. We could try OSINT as a keyword, but I usually use Follow Friday or FF. And then you will see all the amazing people that you can, and organizations that you can follow. These are some of my favorites. Of course, Trace Labs, if you don't know them, please get to know them. They do an amazing job. OSINT Dojo, when I started in this path, I learned a lot from them. They're very generous. And of course, some of these people that you might know, including the amazing Bellingcat. If you are into building beautiful reports, I suggest for you to check them out. The idea here is you find the voices and then you start learning the language and you start seeing what tools are coming out and what people are talking about. Another note here is this is a good first contact with the community. So it's a good idea to follow these people, reach out to them, ask questions, and you will find out that they're amazingly generous. Listen to some podcasts. I learned also a lot by just walking my dog and listening to some podcasts. We all learn in different ways. The audio way for me is very useful. These are some of my favorites. I added the Darknet Diaries there because when we are starting in the InfoSec arena, telling and hearing a good story about use cases or about an OSINT investigation, what can go wrong, it's a good way to understand some concepts and also learn techniques and some do's and don'ts in the industry. Let's start looking for free or good price training. I could speak for hours of what operators you can use in Google to find free training, but I just put some of the ones I have used in the past. Eventbrite has some amazing webinars about OSINT that you can find if you look for free OSINT or OSINT webinars in Eventbrite. YouTube, I have found good tutorials, but to be fairly honest, we are open source investigators. Go to a search engine, look for free OSINT, and you will find really, really good content. SANS Institute has a link of preferred free sources. I don't think it has been updated recently, but it's a good start. Please just use your open source intelligence hat and find for everything that is free, because you know what? You're going to get a lot of good things, especially if you're starting your journey. Some good trainings that I have done and I recommend. So Udemy has really good, has several trainings in it that you can find. Just look for the open source intelligence topic. And I personally love the OSINT Combine training because they start with something that I believe sometimes we overlook, which is the methodology and the intelligence cycle. So we tend to look forward to learning how to hack by running commands or learning how to find information with specific tools. But sometimes in OSINT, we overlook or we go past the methodology and the reasons of why you're doing something. And that's very important. So OSINT Combined does a great job and give you a good framework about OSINT. At the end, find a course that feels good for you and introduces you to the framework. And I will suggest try not to spend too much money at the beginning. So there are some good courses that can cost less than $50 or $30 and really, really will give you a good framework to start with. The fourth step, we're continuing our journey. So a tools library. So this is basically a collection of tools that you will get through your exploration of Twitter, your webinars, YouTube. All of this will give you a good sense of tools. And these are basically either software or programs or scripts that you can use for a specific reason. The important thing here is to create a collection. It has to be organized. So I have this particular technique, which I will share with you. You search in an open source for a particular tool. Of, let's say I'm trying to find how to extract EXIF data from pictures in bulk. So I grab that, then I email it to myself. because I don't want it to be lost in a document pasted or so. I label that in the email. I use Gmail labels. I have a OSINT label in my Gmail account, that one I use for this purpose, and then I add it to the collection. So I have a running OneNote that has all the tools that I need for specific objectives. If you can see here, if I do in people OSINT, I have a collection of tools to find voter records, phone numbers, etc. So what I want you to say with this, what I want you to do, or what I want you to understand with this slide, is that you need to have your tools organized in a way that when you have an objective, you can go exactly to the right tool for it. Trials are great. We have several products and several platforms that have trials for you to use the platform for the first time. Hunchly, for example, is very generous. It gives you 30 days of free trial. For those that don't know, Hunchly is a great way to collect information from a website and even generate a report at the end. And it's free. You can get used to it. It teaches you how to extract information, how to build a report. Shodan, they recently had a promotion that they will giving lifetime membership for $4 to celebrate the 4 years anniversary. That give you 100 query credits and 100 scan credits, and 16 IP addresses that can be monitored. And Scope Now, for example, has a 7-day trial. So what I'm trying to say, there are trials that you should exploit to learn the tools. And by learning these tools, you will be learn also how to do investigations. Now, the caveat here is that you should start the trial when you have read about the tool and you have a good use case for it. Meaning, just don't do a light read on the tool and then go and trial, because you know what, you're going to get bored after 2 days. You didn't have a use for it. And that's true, you didn't have a real use case for it. But if you have a use case and you have read about the tool beforehand, you can connect those two things, and then you can exploit that free trial at the best way. Now, here's the first advice of the day. So tools are great, but they're nothing without methodology. And this is something that I want to go back in time and tell myself. I collected a lot of tools, and when I started my first investigations, I spent probably almost 10 days trying to figure out how to do things or what I was looking for. So these 3 questions are very good to start to ask at the beginning of your investigation. So you have to define what are the objectives of the investigation. What workflow are you going to follow to fulfill those investigations? And what kind of report are you going to generate? So here is something that it's interesting. I recently was involved in an investigation, and the lawyer that contacted me say, listen, I just need you to find if these pictures were taken in this place at this time. And I started thinking, okay, we can also find persons of interest. We can try to put maps on. And they were very, very strongly firm, saying that's not what I need. The case needs this, and this is what you need to find. So you see the workflow now narrows, and then your objectives are very clear, and then your tools are also very well defined. So think about the report that you are being asked to provide, and that will set you up for success. Let's continue with what are the investigation objectives, right? So if you're finding a missing person, you're going to go after a specific set of information. If you're analyzing evidence of a crime, you're also trying to find a different set of information, and you're going to use a different set of tools. So here this slide has the purpose of reminding you that the objectives will define your workflow, and the workflow will define the tools, right? So if you think about this, you have to keep in mind that if you don't define this at the beginning of an investigation, you are going to spend a lot of time and waste a lot of time trying to figure out how to get where you want to go. And I like to think about the essential unit of intelligence. So, and this is particularly useful if you decide to do any CTF. So the essential unit of intelligence for me is the minimal expression of the intelligence gathering. So the OSINT section is what you are going to put in the reports is where what I did to find this intelligence was this. The links, obviously, because we need to provide the support of the intelligence that you found, pictures of screenshots of your findings, and the notes. And the notes are really the explanation of what you found is relevant for the investigation and why it's important for us to look at this intel, all right? So these 4 elements will set you up for success because you start thinking while you're doing your CTF or when you're doing investigation, I did this, I arrived here, and this is important because of this. And that is how you can start threading a story about your target, and then you can start presenting a good case to wherever you are going to present it. Step 6, you must create a report template. And I want to say everybody has a different flavor of reports. I don't want to tell you what your report should look like, but I want to share with you what my reports, where my report starts, and sometimes I modify based on clients or based on objectives. So the first thing you should do is have an introduction. What was the event or events that we're investigating? What is known so far? And what is the context? Okay, so you need to understand what happened or and what led to that event. And in that way, you can tell whoever is reading that report, this matters and this is why. The second is your findings. Remember what we started this presentation, we had bullet points. Well, the findings is what you find during your investigation presented really at the beginning of the report. I found this is why how I found it, and this is how I verified it was true, okay? And that can be hinted with a conclusion. So this leads me to conclude that this or that happened, okay? Then you move to your intelligence. So the intelligence section for me is when you really brush up your writer skills and you tell the story, the pictures, the links, the data. You're walking through facts. You're walking through a forest of facts, and you want to draw the reader into the details that you found. It's a beautiful part because it's like if you have to imagine being behind the person reading the report and telling, look closer, look this. This means that this person was sitting here when this was happening. And that for me, it's amazing and it's beautiful. And as I said at the beginning, if you want to read really good reports, I suggest you go to the Bellingcat website and look at some of their cases. They are nicely written. All right, we're coming to the setup, hardware and software. So this is a tough one because people always wants to get faster machines, big machines. What do I install in my machine and so forth? Let's talk about the OSINT computer. The first thing that I want to remind you is that if you're going to do OSINT, you should have a dedicated computer. Yep, that's true. You should not use your personal computer to do OSINT. This is to avoid what we call digital attribution and avoid that you get recognized by any of your targets, especially if you're looking into dangerous people. I don't want you to tell that you should go out and buy a brand new computer. A refurbished computer can do it. You can get a MacBook Pro from 2015 for $580 in back market. Chromebooks are pretty decent. You can install Ubuntu, which is a Linux distro in it. They range from $229 for $849 in the Chromebook shop, or find a computer that nobody is using in your family, wipe it off, install OS on it, and use it. I personally run a 2011 MacBook Pro, and it runs fantastically. I have Ubuntu 2004 on it, and it does the job. I have that, and then I have a personal computer. The OSINT machine is the virtual machines that you're going to use for your investigation. So ideally, not ideally, you have to have a machine that is your principal machine, and then you clone that for each investigation, okay? So basically, you're all going to have a dedicated environment for a specific investigation. Why? Very simple. You don't want to run the risk that you have personal files or you have another investigation files in that machine in case the court asks you for you to provide that machine as evidence. I suggest, if you don't want to go through the pain of building your virtual machine, go to the TraceLabs OSINT VM. The OSINT VM of TraceLab, it's based on the very famous Buscador VM, and they have done an amazing job curating it. They recently released their 2021 version, and it's very well done. You also can build your own machine. If you are familiar with Michael Basil's book, he has a great chapter about it, and it really walks you through how to do it. This depends a lot of how comfortable you are technically, and to be fairly honest, there's not right or wrong if you're starting in your path in OSINT. When you move forward in this path, you will realize that you might find yourself with a mixers. You can have pre-built VMs, and you can have your own principal VM that you have built at your liking. Okay, and each one of them will have different flavors and different levels of fitness for what your purposes are. So let's continue with burner phones. Yes, you will need at least one. I will suggest you get one. Why? Because when you're setting your Puppet accounts, you want to use a phone that is not linked to you. It has to be factory unlocked so you don't get bound to any provider. eBay is a great source of factory unlocked phones. There are some electronics shops that sell refurbished cell phones. So used and refurbished are your friends. Mints, the SIMs card from Mint are, in my opinion, the best price value. You can try setting this up with a 99-cent intro package that they have in Amazon. The link is right there. But you should be able to find a decent burner phone that you can use for swap SIMs for $150. I want also to say that before you do this, you should check if you're going to use Mint, if the phone the model that you want to use is compatible, and after you have done that check, you go ahead and buy it. Okay. VPN. Let's talk about digital attribution. So digital attribution is when you touch somebody's systems or you look into somebody's social media, if they find a trace of you being the person doing it, they will track you back and they will identify you. And that's something that we want to avoid. So you can use a VPN, which is something that you can easily install as a software. I personally use the PIA, or Private Internet Access VPN. I found it's enough for what I do. But if these people are very, very adamant on finding you, they can try to find listed IPs and track you back. So I combine proxy chaining, which is basically the chaining of proxy servers through your computer. So what you're doing, you're routing the traffic to different servers from your Linux machine. I have dropped here a links from Linux Babe, which is will show you how to do it for your Ubuntu distro, but they have really good articles of how to do it. What I'm trying to say, please don't forget when you are doing this, that the first thing that you have to take care of is your own safety. It will depend on who you are looking into, but for certain investigations that I personally been involved, I definitely don't want them to know that I'm looking into their systems or into their social pages. So you're ready. I have my tools. I know I have my VM. So this is when I go back to my old, my younger self and say, remember, preparation goes a long way. You need to set yourself up for success, and you need to prepare yourself before your investigation. That means create sock puppets. These accounts are the ones that you're going to use. Try to tune them to the region and the target you're going after. Upgrade your machine. You don't want to end up having to upgrade your machine in the middle of an investigation, or even worse, a CTF. Clone your VM before your investigation. Remember, you have to use a VM for each investigation. You don't want to use your primary. If you use your primary, you lost it. You have to start from scratch. Get file structure ready, including your report template. If you're going to generate a report, this should be the beginning of your setup. Remember, you want to have in your mind what is the story that you are going to tell and how you're going to tell it. So that way, when you are in the middle of the investigation, you know exactly what tools to use and how to tell the story at the end. Therefore, define your objectives and discuss with the investigation team. If you are collaborating with somebody, please listen to them. You need to understand what are the objectives from the court, what are the objectives for the organization. So we can be creative, but we do really need to satisfy those objectives. And of course, don't forget the VPN. I say this, and I will say it. I imagine me screaming, a floating head screaming, don't forget the VPN, because I have seen many times people that has touched where they were trying to investigate without VPN, and that becomes a problem. Okay, so remember, we want to be safe. We want to enjoy what we do, and digital attribution is relevant. And the last advice, and it's being aware of your mental health. OSINT will take you to different paths. And that means that you might end up seeing things or learning things that are shocking, that are, if that's the path that you're going to, they're shocking and they are scary, and you realize that reality is not as nice as you think. You start dwelling into a subworld, and you really need to be aware of signs, and don't be afraid to ask for help. And I speaking here specifically to people that has NDAs, or there are some clearance, or they're involved on certain intelligence work, that they can discuss what they're working on with other people. So you can go for beers with friends and unleash, listen, I've been looking to these pictures for the last 15 days. I'm unable to sleep. I think, so if you are in that position, please be aware that that's happening and ask for help, because there's nothing more important than your own health. And that also will tailor what kind of investigations you want to do, right? So if you find yourself that you're, let's say you're a parent and you can't, by investigating missing children, you are losing sleep, you're angry, you're afraid, then maybe it's a good sign for even pivot, which is a great word in OSINT, to a different line of investigation, or to seek for the help to understand how to carry on. Okay. Now, that's my time. I enjoyed so much. I hope you learned something and you enjoy it. Get out there, find truth, OSINT, it's an amazing path, and I think it's the beginning of a lot of careers in InfoSec. Thank you so much.
Wow. 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 Hi.
Hi.
So a second. Okay. Yes. There we go. So we do have a few questions for you that have come in from the chat. Let's yes. So the first one was related to your slides. Do you think you'll be releasing them? Maybe on a GitHub, maybe on something?
I definitely will release them. I need to find, I probably will use a link or something safe to release them, maybe through the conference.
Right, I will be then linking this in the description, of course. You want to take the second question, Scout? You're local muted.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I forgot to turn off my mic as well, just in case. Yeah, I would love to take the second question. So you actually got another question about how do you keep track of essential units of intelligence in your notes?
So that really depends of what is the report. So if I'm doing a CTF, for example, I try to do a shared document with my team, but I discuss the intel structure with them. So I try to come to agreement and say, hey, this is the structure we're going to use. This is the link. We're going to be working on this. Please track them there. If you are working on a more in-depth investigation, I have a personal combination of OneNote and Moleskine. I like paper because it makes me feel that I'm doing an all-time investigation. So I draw my notes there and polish them into my OneNote. So I have my template of the report for that investigation usually built in the OneNote. I start populating it, and then I build a document from Google Docs and send it to the customer or the stakeholders, and then close it and destroy it.
Alrighty, thank you.
And we have one last question, I think. Yes. From Vent, have you taken part in a Trace Labs event? If yes, what is the process like for finding a missing person from your experience?
Okay, well, I have taken part in a Trace Labs event. My first one was the last one, actually, and I got there because I did a funny meme. They did a contest, and I was one of the winners. So the missing person workflow, really, it's around mainly two things. The first one is the person and their relatives and the circle of influence, or the circle of social circles, right? Interestingly, you learn a lot about the person by knowing who they're hanging out with, who are the friends, who are the families, do they have partners, what grudges are in play. And the second thing is when they went missing, what were the events that triggered this disappearance, right? So I will say the main source for intel, in my opinion, when you're talking about a missing person, is a good Facebook account. You sometimes find juicy Facebook accounts, and sometimes you find an account that is like, oh my God, this person never posted, and you go like, why? Definitely Facebook is good because you start pulling the thread of, okay, this person was dating this person, they had a fight, and these are examples. I'm not talking about real cases, but or this person has this relative that they visited, and this is a good one, 4 months before disappearing. So you can see that path is fresh, and there's something in intelligence that it's a network analysis, right? It's like who's connected with who, and the weight between those connections is what might lead you to explore further, and then you start moving into Instagram, and then you start moving into gaming platforms, looking for handles that the person has used in the past. So I will say focus on two things mainly: the person's Facebook relationships and circles, and the disappearance event. what happened that day that made them disappear.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, everyone is impressed. Also, some of the speakers coming after you, so hopefully you didn't scare them off. But yeah, thanks for being here, and thanks for being on.
Well, thank you so much.